The reason that men are not showing up the way that you want and deserve with really high standards is because you're allowing them to, okay? I love men so much, but if you let a dog pee in the corner one time, the dog is gonna keep peeing in the corner over and over and over. If he is late and you let him be late, if he does things, he cheats on you, he pushes, he does things and you allow it, he will keep doing it.
You don't know what words mean, do you?
I've always been of the firm belief that the best female dating advice comes from women who have chakra tattoos on their forehead. It's not because the advice is any good, typically it's far from it, but it is an endless source of hilarity. Woman, I don't see how you can expect anyone to take you seriously, especially when you claim to love men and then immediately compare them to dogs. Now let's just get something out of the way first. You're not talking about the 80% of men that you blatantly ignore on a day-to-day basis, because generally speaking, those men don't really cheat unless it's under incredibly specific circumstances. Now, unlike dogs, which you can condition a housebreak, the same doesn't go for the top 10 to 20% of men that you're chasing. You're not in a relationship with those men. They're sleeping with you because you're easy and they have nothing better to do. If they choose a different woman, it's not cheating because the two of you were never exclusive in the first place. And if you try to put your foot down and make those kind of demands, they're not gonna respect you. They're just gonna leave because they have a roster and they're not afraid to consult it when things get mildly inconvenient.
You have to have like standards and self-respect up to here. Because that's like men and women unconsciously test each other all the time in the beginning of a relationship. A man will test you and push you to see if you are the type of woman that will hold him, okay, to these very high standards, or if you will tolerate all of his nonsense. And let me tell you that he will leave you, when you tolerate all of it, he will leave you for the girl who's a bitch and who holds high standards like this. So raise your standards, raise your standards.
Check, please.
You know what? Whenever I hear female dating advice, there's always this thought that lingers in the back of my mind. Do these women actually have any kind of proof that this so-called advice actually works? Or are they just assuming it works because they're basing it off of illogical feelings? Because it sounds to me like you have no idea what you're talking about and you're just making this stuff up on the fly because none of it makes sense at all. Self-respecting men don't test women. There's no need to. They set crystal clear boundaries, and if you violate those boundaries, they leave. It's not that complicated and it doesn't require mind games. But we're not talking about self-respecting men. We're talking about Chad and Tyrone, and the rules for them are a little different. And the rules for them is that if you're trying to put your foot down and showing that you have high standards, they'll stick around to play with your grungy cesspit of hellish abandon until you become so insufferable then they just ignore you and move on with their roster. In short, the moral of the story is pick better men. But in your case, I think it's a little too late for you. Men have standards and you barely meet less than the bare minimum.
Oh, this is just so shocking. I mean, I must just be so monumentally naive.
You are.
Let me tell you a quick story about what happened with me yesterday. So I was in Bumble, I matched with this guy, and on his profile it said, "We'll get along really well if ... like that was the prompt, and he answered, "You play golf." So we match, I message first because it's Bumble, which I think is stupid anyways because you already match and find each other mutually attractive. So we're talking real quick, we maybe exchanged like 4 sentences. We're both in the chat because they're both responding right away. And then he goes, "So Kenna, tell me how many times a week you play golf." And mind you, this guy didn't have any pictures of him playing golf on his profile, or none even wearing a baseball hat or even in a polo, which is fine. And I respond with, "Oh my gosh, I've actually never played golf. Don't report me." And like, to be funny,
Really? You're not funny.
Now here's a fun story for you. Now I'm not a golfer, but that didn't stop me from playing golf once at a chip and putt course in California. I did what I assumed every golfer did. I got drunk off some Jägermeister and just played with a 5-iron and a putter. I almost broke 3 or 4 windshields. The reason I brought up this story is because it's significantly more interesting than the story this chick is telling, but this actually leads to a bigger question that I have. For some reason, if the random opportunity ever arrives for me to play video golf, I find find myself playing the game longer than anticipated, which is kind of weird. Does that happen to anybody else, or is that just me? Let me know, because this question has occupied more real estate in my head than I think it should. But anyway, though I can't stand watching golf on TV, it looks simultaneously relaxing and frustrating, which I have to admit is pretty impressive for a sport that requires you to tuck in your pants. But I'm getting distracted with the game, because if I don't, I'll get distracted with this woman's gigantic forehead. Seriously, you could land a Nostromo on that thing. And with all that headspace, you'd think she'd be able to put two and two together that if the guy mentions golf in his dating profile, then there'd be no need to include pictures of him playing golf. But then I forget, she's on Bumble. There's no hope for her to be that smart.
And I go immediately, like seconds later, to send a follow-up of something flirty, like, maybe you should teach me. And the message says failed. And I was like, wait, there's no way. So I tried to send it again, and it said failed. So I go back a page to where all my other match conversations are, and I watched the conversation disappear before my very eyes. So, in case you're a little lost here in the story, he blocked me, unmatched me, and then blocked me because I've never played golf. So, you know.
If there's any lesson to be learned here, it's that you should never underestimate a woman's ability to be obliviously hypocritical. Yes, a man who made it clear that he wants a woman who plays golf ghosted you because you don't play golf. It's a perfectly reasonable standard for a golfer to have, and you're sitting there acting like it's some type of slight against your honor when you'll ghost a man if he parts his hair on the wrong side of his head. However, when you do that, it's because some guy 10 years ago cut in front of you in line at a coffee shop and he had a similar hairstyle. So therefore, it's a legitimate red flag when you do it. But when a man doesn't want to date you because you don't play golf, it's somehow magically the man's fault because he's being too demanding. He doesn't want to deal with the flirty text about teaching you how to play golf because teaching someone a game takes too much time, requires too much effort and money, and you're gonna suck at it. And it's gonna require months of intensive practice for you to even resemble something that's barely passable as a player. That's not fun for a dude. It's not flirty, it's a chore. And men have enough problems and chores in life without dealing with a chick who thinks basic standards are a red flag.
There are 5 red flags in a man. And if you're a man and you have any of these, cut them out. Number 1 is he blames others for his actions. As a man, you should always take responsibility for what you do. And if a man has that victim mentality, then number 1, it's very attractive, and number 2, he has a weak mindset. The red flag is he is in bad shape. So the exception is if a man is working hard and doing something about it, then that is great. If he's just sitting there, he doesn't care, he's comfortable with it, then that's a red flag. A man, you should physically always want to look your best.
This isn't sounding like a list of red flags so much as it's a list of behaviors that are only acceptable when you do them. Come on, lady, when was the last time you took responsibility for anything? Nothing you do is ever your fault. You have a whole list of excuses at the ready, be it a mean comment on one of your dumbass videos, being on your period, or even your zodiac sign. There is no limit to how something is never your fault. And for the record, most self-respecting men actually do have some integrity and will take the blame for something if it's truly their fault. But you'll never know this because you'll never date a self-respecting man. You're not capable of keeping one. And while we're on the subject, you are forgetting yourself, woman. You're currently body shaming men, which is a privilege reserved only for you. If a man wants you to be in shape, then all of a sudden he's a misogynistic pig who needs to educate himself on feminine energy. But if you're going to require a man to stay in shape, you need to hold yourself to the same standard. That's how equality works, sweetheart. But we already know the second that some poor fool decides to marry you, you're gonna let yourself go because you already got what you wanted. Don't deny it. We already know it's true.
3 is he is always available. A man should be busy, he should have things going on most of the time, and he should not be available always. Let's say you are a man who is always available, never express this to a girl. 4th red flag is he can't control his emotions. If he gets offended easily or he gets mad and lashes out, then that is a feminine trait. Everybody has emotions, however, a man should be able to hold himself highly and know when to express his emotions.
Oh wait, you're serious.
Translation, a man must always be making money. He needs to be working, hustling, and getting rich in the process. If he's not making money, then he's just sitting around and doing nothing, and that's no fun for you. Now, I know thinking isn't your strongest suit. I get that. But if a man is saying he's always available, usually it means he's able to make time in his schedule to see you because, for reasons yet determined, he actually wants to go out with you. It's when he says that he's too busy and he can't see you that he actively is trying to avoid you. And as for controlling your emotions, well, I do have to admit that even a broken clock is right twice a day. Men should be in control of their emotions and remain stoic at all possible times. But at the same time, you're not holding yourself to the same standard in the slightest. Even if the most inconsequential of things ever happens to you, that's somehow grounds for you to grab your phone and record yourself crying uncontrollably or flipping out in a blind rage and posting it online for the entire world to witness. But going back to my previous point, you are allowed to do this because when it happens to you, it's happening to the most important person.
Shut up! This is totally different!
Last one is he has no goals in life. You as a man should always want to do better, always want to reach higher, and if this is not you, then you're probably fucking lazy and you should change that. Anyways, let me know if these are valid and what else I should make.
Men already have a natural drive to want to do better in life. We're naturally competitive, but you refuse to see that because you want to reap the rewards of the hard work and not actually support it when the work is happening. Modern women won't stick with a man who's working on himself because there's no direct benefit. They pretend to support them, but will duck out the second the process hits a snag. And then when the man works his ass off and becomes successful, then the woman will swoop in and try to benefit off of the hard work. Then to add insult to injury, she'll then take credit for his success by saying the old adage, behind every successful man is a woman, or some variation of that garbage. The only women who say that have no drive in their lives except to marry a successful man. And these men become incredibly careful with who they let into their lives because rich, successful men can smell a leech from a mile away. Because those truly successful men, they know the God's honest truth. Behind every successful man is a harlot that's just waiting for the opportunity to stab them in the back. And that's gonna do it for today's video, gentlemen and gents. As always, if you find that my particular brand of comedy is bringing you to the brink of laughter, then why don't you scroll on down and click that like and subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Let's give the good old-fashioned middle finger to the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for checking out the new video, and until next time, peace out, homies.